Okay, so here we are in our, let me go over on this side. We've got our blocks sewn together, and I've actually cut my first pieces that are going to be my borders around our center here. So the thing that I want to remind you is the first one is that M4 color, which is this beautiful red. That one is actually cut at 1 3/4, and that's going to be the one that goes all the way around the quilt top first. And then we go to, I think it's L3, and that is going to be 1 1/4 inches. So this is what I highly recommend that you do. I would go ahead and I would sew on my first border, okay, and get it neatly pressed. And then I would go back and I would add my second border. Because if you will remember, we do have a measurement that we are shooting for once that third border is on. So if you will remember, according to our little paper here, after we get all three borders put on our 9 patch in the center here, it's supposed to measure 42 1/4 inches. So here's the reason why I'm going to hold off on my last border before I even cut the thing. The reason that I'm going to do that is I'm going to add both of these to my 9 patch center, and then I'm going to measure to make sure that when I'm finished, that when I add that last border, it'll be the 42 1/4 inches. Here's the thing about doing that though, is that if for some reason I have a bigger measurement after I put these two borders on or a smaller measurement, then I'm able to adjust that last border. And so to me, instead of just going willy-nilly and cutting my fabric and getting everything going and then going, oh shoot, the last border put on, it is not measuring 42 1/4. This way I have some play. So that's what we're going to do. So the first one I'm going to put on is our beautiful M4. Okay, so I've added on my outer borders. And now what you need to do is you're going to measure across your quilt. And again, I'm sorry I have to step in front of you, but we're going to just measure. And it's 39 and 39. So what you're going to do is you want to measure across there, because now we're going to add our top and bottom pieces of our border. So be sure and measure, and that's going to give you the correct size to cut your strips, and we'll go on to the next one. So I'm going to get those cut. Record this. Okay, so as you can see, I've got all 4 of my borders on, my first borders, and now it comes time to do the second. So as always, guess what we're going to do? We're actually going to measure these again. So we got it here. And we're going down. And so, yep, that's 39. So, woohoo, I guess I got that side right. And what about this side? Yep. So that first side here, these are going to be 39. So we're going to get our L3 fabric, and we are going to cut those at 39 inches, and we're going to add those on, and then we'll add the top and bottom. Okay, so I've added the sides on to our center here. And when I measured, this measurement from this side over to this side was 40 1/2. So that means I'm going to cut my top and bottom. I'm going to trim those to 40 1/2, and we're going to get those sewn on, and then we'll look at our last border. All right, so we've got the tops and bottoms put on our center blocks. And now we know that we've already measured. So this going from here down to here is going to be 40 and a half. And the thing that I want to remind you all of is this. You need to measure after every time you add a border on. Because, like I said earlier, if you're working on something and it's a little smaller or a little bit bigger than the 42 and a quarter, you can make up for that in your borders. Okay. So right now, mine is actually at 40 and a half. And so I am able to use the 1 1/4 inch strip measurement that the pattern stated. But you need to look and measure, and then you're going to subtract whatever your quilt measures at this point from the 42 and a quarter, and that's going to tell you how much you're going to need to cut your strips. And remember that you're going to actually have a 1/2 inch taken out of your measurement because of your seam allowances. So measure, measure, measure. Measuring is our friend, especially on something like this. So happy stitching. Good. Okay, so now we've got this, the borders added on this side, and we're going to measure. So the thing is that in my perfect world, it will be 42 and a quarter. So let's measure. Well, mine measures 42. So here's the deal. I am not going to worry about adding 1/8 of an inch on each side. I'm just going to make it 42. You guys do the same. So like I said, measure after each one, and then you want to try and get it as close to 42 and a quarter as you possibly can. So I'm going to go with the 42, and it'll work. Let's add the top and bottom. Okay, so here is your 9-patch center with the 3 borders added to it. Again, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you measure again after each one. So let's just go over it. I'm thinking of a lot of things. So the first thing you need to do is sew your blocks into rows and your rows together. First thing. Then you're going to measure your blocks, and you're going to get your fabric strips ready for your borders. And remember, we are using M4, L3, and D1. So those are going to be your border fabrics that you're going to be using. Just to let you know, if you run out of a fabric that you were planning on using for that, then go to your stash and get something that's the same colorway. I did not have enough of my original D1, which was this pretty one with the little floral on there. So I just found another purple, and you know, in the grand scheme of everything, nobody's going to know that it wasn't used other places. So don't get in a hurry. That'd be my first thing. Just take your time. Be sure and starch your fabrics before you cut them into strips, because you're going to be working, as you can see, with really long pieces. And that spray starch just helps give it a little extra body so that it's not quite so floppy, I guess I want to say. And then measure after each section that you put on. So measure this one after you've sewn them on, and that'll give you the measurement for this direction. And you want to do that in every one of them. So measure after each one. And again, the pattern says that this should be 42 and a quarter. If it's close to 42 or you're at 42, all I can say is that should be okay. Because remember, our next step is we're going to be cutting that big giant courthouse step that you made. So that will be on another video. So go put this thing together, and I hope you have fun.